Welcome to Inclusive Expat. There's the version people talk about, and then there's the real one. This is a podcast about immigration, neurodivergence, family, and what actually happens when big systems meet real lives. I'm Sita. Today, we're going to talk to Katherine. Most of the people I've talked to about moving have moved with a partner, someone to split the paperwork, someone to help translate, someone to hold it together when you fall apart. And today's guest didn't have that. Katherine moved her teenager and her two dogs from Seattle to Valencia by herself. She is late diagnosed ADHD and her kid is neurodivergent. And when I asked her what was the hardest part of the move, she surprised me. She said it wasn't that hard. Katherine, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, nice to be here.
So glad to have you. Let's get started by talking about your decision to leave. You broke up with the US. Tell me about that. When did that relationship end?
Gosh, I feel like we were in a long-term breakup. I love to travel, and way back in 2013, I think, was the first time I visited Spain. And you just go somewhere, land in a place, or you walk into a room, and the energy just feels different. And that's kind of how I felt whenever I got to Spain. At this point, I was in Girona, about 45 minutes north of Barcelona, and it felt like home. And my heart was just like, I'm going to be here one day. I don't know how or when, but it's happening. Fast forward, COVID happened, and I am dreaming. I am just so over the politics and the survival mode that exists in the U.S., just trying to make it day by day for everybody. And I started hopping on social media and hadn't really been a social media person up until then. And with nothing else to do, I discovered TikTok. And one of the accounts that I follow, lots of travel accounts, it was this woman who said that, she was in South America, and she was like, I will never go back. And that landed really hard for me because it felt like that was exactly what I was experiencing. And I was ready just to have a different type of life as far as just the flow of life. My life in the States was fine, I class, I had access to things, and I had, good friends and all of that. But it was just the daily grind, and I didn't like the school system for my kid. I didn't like how it took everything I had just to get through the day, and working so hard to pay bills, and just exhausted. My meter at that point was, I had a good day if I still had energy to cook dinner at the end of the day. And I'm just like, that's kind of bare bones, that's my measure of a good day, is if I still have bandwidth to actually make dinner. Something's the matter with that.
Yeah.
And so that started me thinking about, what do I want to do, and what could I do? Because at that point I was divorced. We had a custody agreement. And so the original plan was to move to Spain after my kid graduated high school. And then life progressed. My kid eventually went no contact with their dad through their own choice and with their therapist. And after about 2 years of no contact with their dad, and then re-election. And the work that I do is I work with clients and do a lot of trauma work, and I hold a lot of that in my body, even though I don't want to. And I was like, I don't think will survive another run of this. So at that point, I just started exploring, what are my options? And I was no longer tied to the States for family and for, custody concerns. And yeah, that's kind of where the exploration started from there. And I did have my doubts about whether or not to move, and I redid my search from scratch 50 times, and I always landed back on Spain. And yeah, so that's kind of what happened. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So as a single parent, how did you get to the point, with your custody and your kid? Was your teenager on board? And how did that conversation go?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. So my kiddo is autistic and ADHD, and they have a subtype of autism called PDA, or pervasive drive for autonomy. Medically, it's typically referred to as pathological demand avoidance. And I I started working with them through that lens probably whenever they were between like 8 to 10 years old. And at this point, they're 15 now. And so we've had a lot of years and a lot of therapy and like reworking my own brain. And so we were in a really good spot to be able to have like real conversations and chat about the reality of the situation, what they wanted, what they didn't want, and having their buy-in was the make or break for me because they had a really, and they still do have like a core group of friends in the States at their high school that I know that they're just going to be like lifelong connections. And there was no
Mm.
way that I wanted to break that up. And so we had lots of conversations, and not to give them like all this power, but like, like we could go now or we could go after high school. Like, this is your call. It was just a lot
Mm.
of like back and forth. But I will tell you right from the beginning, they adore their friends, and they were also like, that's what FaceTime's for. That's what Zoom is for. Like they were like, let's go. Like you're ready for it. They're
Yeah.
always ready
Yeah.
for an adventure. So that was really helpful to have their buy-in. And once we did that, we started having deeper conversations about like not just like this novelty experience of moving to a
Mm.
different place, but it was like, no, I really wanted them to understand the gravity and what would actually change in their day-to-day lives. And so we shift therapeutic focus at that point with their treatment team and with our conversations too, and started having like some real life conversations. And I think that was really, really important and
Yeah.
really helped us to land.
Yeah, that's really insightful. I think sometimes I know for me with ADHD, some of ours are ADHD, and there's that initial excitement of shiny and new, and they're like, I'm all in, and so to
Uh-huh.
kind of think beyond that, okay, it's shiny and we like it, but what happens next,
Yeah.
so smart to really do that thought experiment of kind of going there and working through there are going to be hard parts to this because there are.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of hard parts, when I asked you about the hardest part of the move, you said it wasn't that hard. Most people say the opposite. So tell me what made it manageable for you?
Well, I think emotionally, the decision making, like to actually make the decision, was the most difficult part. Um, but after that, it was all about a checklist and crossing things off the checklist. And I like a checklist, so I'm good with that. But I will also say what really helped was that I hired a relocation specialist who was amazing. They literally sent me an Excel spreadsheet. We shared a Google Drive, and they had all the folders like labeled, and they were on top of it. So from like an ADHD perspective, I really appreciate having that scaffolding. So I had somebody checking in on me. They knew my timeline whenever I was, going to be coming to Spain over spring break, and that's whenever we were going to submit everything. They really had it nailed down to help me get all the moving pieces and even had templates for me. So all I had to do was like fill in the blanks. It was really great. And I think honestly, like that's what helped. Not that there wasn't stress involved, and especially with the visa process, I mean, like making sure you're getting all the documents. There
Mm.
are a lot of moving parts there, but there was a very clear laid out path and plan, which was great. Trying to downsize, I had, typical suburban, had like a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath house, and which was lovely in this amazing neighborhood. Ugh, my car, like all these things, right? So it was downsizing that was probably the most stressful part of it. However, I had a friend who was looking to escape Southern Texas because of the political stuff. And so she moved up here, and it was like a mutual support. So I had extra room. She came, and she was integral into helping us sell things on Facebook Marketplace and get
Yes.
things going. I am really grateful for their support and help doing that, because that really made it much less of a
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really amazing. It's so relatable too. We also used a service that helped with sort of organizing all those documents and getting everything to them in order. And I remember thinking, like, I would be a hot mess on my own here. Like, I needed that organization and support and scaffolding, as you said. And yeah, I mean, I had help in my family getting everything sold and all of that, but it's great that you had someone come in, found family coming in to help with
Yes.
help along
Yeah.
the way. As a single parent new to the city, how did you find people so fast?
Yeah. So, a friend of mine had come to Spain. She's not here now, but she arrived here last like December, and did like a Spanish school situation. But she really mirrored for me like the making friends process. She had joined a bunch of Facebook groups and started talking to people and like kind of making connections before she moved, and then connected with them while she was here. I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. Like things that are kind of like, duh, of course, why wouldn't you do that? But my head wasn't in that space. And so I didn't even think about it. And I was like, that's actually really important. So I joined some Facebook groups, and I met some folks there, and one gal and I met in a therapy Facebook group, and we discovered that we were both moving to Valencia, and then she hooked me up with a WhatsApp group. And once I moved here, I started, participating in the chat. And then there was another woman who we discovered we lived right next to each other. So we got together for brunch one day and decided we need to do a brunch group. But I think the most important thread here is that there are quite a few of us all leaving the States for similar reasons at about the same time. And that really is the glue that bound us. We're all deeply wanting connectedness with found family and friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think honestly, that's something special. I am so, 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 so grateful and glad that we moved when we did, and we didn't
Yeah.
wait until my kid graduated high school. From the sense of community and the environment and our quality of life, oh my God, all the stress, all the whatever that you have to go through, worth it, 100%.
Mm. Hmm. What are people afraid of that they don't need to be afraid of?
I think it just depends on their context, but there is worry about community, like in speaking the language, and how is all that going to go? And I think choosing Valencia specifically because there was a large immigrant community here, that was really important to me. Do your research so that way it feels more familiar. I think how our brains work anyway is whenever we're considering doing something new, our brain's going to come up with all the bad things that can
Hmm.
happen, all the
Hmm.
what ifs and
Yeah.
fears. And I think that's healthy, but also still do it scared.
Yeah, great. Do it scared. I love that. You've also talked about your mental health and how your mental and physical health have improved since you've gotten here. What changed?
The sun. Have you been to Seattle? It is 9 months of cloud. So, for folks who don't know, Seattle draws a lot of introverts, and you just want to stay inside and be cozy all day. So it's a whole thing. So the sun makes a huge difference.
Okay.
Also, myself and my kiddo have some genetic and autoimmune medical conditions, and the barometric pressure of those low clouds cause a
Mm.
lot of pain and a lot of fatigue. And I knew the sun like impacted me, but I didn't realize like how much it dampens my capacity to function, which of course is going to impact your mental health and ability when you can't get out of the house and you're constantly dealing with just chronic fatigue and
Mm.
exhaustion and debilitating pain almost
Mhm.
24/7. So being able to have the sun and not a lot of clouds, so the barometric pressure is great. And also it's so walkable here. Like if I had to get in a car right now and drive, because it's been a minute, I'd have to like really think about it. Because I haven't had to drive anywhere in so long. And I love it.
Yeah.
So I have a condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, as does my kiddo, and dysautonomia. And so a lot of types of movements can be very triggering, or like going to a regular gym. I can't tell you how often I've dislocated stuff or hurt myself doing like hardly anything. So Pilates is really great for me, but the cost is a barrier in the States. And
Wow.
here, I have a Pilates studio that's across the street from my house. It's 170 euros, unlimited per month. And that's like for yoga, bar, Pilates. So I can go 3 or more times a week, which 170 euros is expensive, I understand. But comparatively, and it's so life-giving to me and my kiddo, it's worth every penny. And I love that it's across the street because I'm ADHD as fuck. So if I'm late, I'm still early, and it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Accessibility is huge, and there is access to things that might have, like you said, had a financial barrier in the States.
I will also say, because my kid uses mobility devices, and I have seen more people with visible or invisible disabilities here than I think I have in the United States my whole entire life. And I just love that accessibility.
Yeah.
Everybody's out. Like it's not hidden, and there's no shame around it.
Yeah, I agree. We've had that experience too. Um, Speaking of finances, you've been working remotely since 2016. How much did that help? Did your work not change at all, or what changed coming over here?
Yeah. Well, I think being virtual already was huge, and it's such a support, especially going into COVID, and then also allowing me to move over. The main thing that's changed is my work hours, because I do work directly with clients, and so my hours did have to change. And
Mhm.
from the Pacific Coast time, that's like early hours, so like 6 a.m. for them, which is like the afternoon, evening time for us. So instead of working in the morning like I used to back in the States, so I try to work school hours. Here I'm working in the afternoon from like 3 to 8, 3 to 10, depends on like the day. So working in the evening has been a shift, and I wasn't sure how I would like it. Wasn't sure how my clients would like it. So far it's been actually really fine. I enjoy sleeping in, and then like taking my dogs for the walk, going to Spanish classes, like, just having lunch with friends, and then work, and then having family time afterwards, and then going to bed and redoing it all over again.
Yeah.
Um, so it's actually worked out just fine for us, and surprisingly, most of my clients did not have any issues with shifting to earlier hours, which I was concerned about.
That's great. That's amazing. Tell me about your ADHD brain and how it's been supported or thriving on handling everything yourself, or if you've experienced it shutting down based on handling all the utilities, handling all the bureaucracy, handling all of the everything you need for yourself and your child.
I think it was a lot harder and stressful in the States than it has been here. To be honest, even with the language barrier, because I'm not fluent in Spanish, although I try. What's coming to mind is I'm having this distinct memory of being in my kitchen back in the States, trying to make myself coffee, and like I'm just shaking. Like my autonomic nervous system has just taken over, and I am just like almost like in the shivers, but I'm not cold. It's just like a really heightened stress response. And that was not abnormal for me. And I haven't had that once since I've moved here, even with all this stuff. And so I think that the stress load is just different here. People are supportive here. There's a lot of resources for immigrants. and people who want to help. And so if you have questions or you're not sure how to do something, there's help for that, and it's affordable. So I feel like having that sense of community and with lots of people who are willing to help and invest in one another has really been a game changer. And yeah, so as far as like the bureaucracy, there's people who are willing to help. So if you put that ask out there, they're willing to help, which I didn't really get that in the States. Everybody is in their own mode, their own family system, their own whatever,
Their own
and
stress.
their own stress. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so they don't know how to help, or it's harder to ask for help. And when you do ask for help, you don't get it, or like, or not that you won't get it, but it's very minimal. Like
Right.
people
Right.
aren't just like, they don't have this abundance
hmm
of time, bandwidth, energy to offer,
Right. Yeah.
because we're all working from empty cups, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Having to navigate this with a custody plan, what do you think other single parents need to know?
Oh, good question. So it's definitely state dependent. So what I had to do was file a intent to move through the court system. And once that was in, we had like a little back and forth to go back to, if he agrees or not. Now, my ex wanted to use that as an opportunity to open up the child support plan and to take away all support. And we ended up having to draw this out, and it was more expensive and stressful than what it actually needed to be. But the court system said that there's no reason why he can refuse us from leaving. And he just was trying to manipulate it to where he didn't have to provide support anymore. So that was stressful in and of itself, but it's done. We're here. As far as like for listeners to make sure you understand the timing and see what's needed. For Spain's immigration, at least for the digital nomad visa, I just had to have a letter from him that was signed and notarized and apostilled and translated, and they did not ask for court documentation during the visa process. So I just needed that letter, which he was able to provide, and we were able to go through the visa process that way. But the legal perspective, like just wanting to make sure that the custody was in check, that took a lot longer.
Well, I'm glad it didn't delay your move.
No, it didn't.
You shared a story with me about walking your dogs at night shortly after you moved, and I would love if you would share that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a single woman in America, or, femme presenting, you are always on guard. You may be looking straight, but you know exactly what's happening around you at all times, particularly being a survivor of sexual assault, of who's behind me, especially if it's men. And so that's been just this like subconscious vigilance that we have at all times.
Yeah.
And about maybe like a few weeks after we had moved, I knew Spain was safer. In general, they've got like a 3% crime rate or something like that. It was summer. So we're coming back from a walk. It's probably almost midnight. And we're approaching our apartment building, and I can feel two people walking behind me, in which you have this spidey sense, that they're men. And so I immediately got myself to the side, brought the dogs to the side so I can look at them and kind of clock them so I can, see their facial expressions. And as I walk by, they were nice. They smiled. But as they walked by, they grabbed each other's hands. And not in a, oh my gosh, this crazy lady kind of way, although I probably looked like a crazy lady because I'm just like, PTSD has landed. What's happening?
Deer in headlights right now.
Yeah, exactly. But they just gently took each other's hands. And the message that I received from that in that moment was we're safe. Nobody's out to get you. You can go for a walk and it's going to be okay. And just the tears just started coming. And it just made me realize how much hypervigilance being a woman in America has taught me. And how much I'm constantly carrying that. I don't even know. I didn't even realize I was carrying that level of intensity until that moment. that was the start of like the onion peeling off, so to speak, of like the stress and also the grief, because I could actually process, and it truly felt like a falling away of a lot of layers, like just not just from this moment, but um, that was the catalyst for
Yeah.
actually allowing my nervous system to access safety in a way that I don't think I've experienced in my adult life.
Wow. What a beautiful moment of solidarity, too. Like, I could not, I can't imagine something like that happening in the States. Just to like the thought and sort of awareness of you and your reaction, and to be able to sense even your fear in that moment and to address that with holding hands. I mean, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. It was pretty special.
So layers, I love what you said about that grief, trauma. How does that feel in your body?
Lighter, yeah, lighter. Like, and it's way less lonely too. Like, so like with complex medical conditions, I mean, I still have flares and I'll still have like moments, right? But there's so much loneliness in that because it's very difficult to make the effort to go out and make friends and then maintain those friendships because it's, constantly planning and I don't know how I'm going to show up. So I mean, like for people with complex medical conditions, y'all get it. Like, you don't know how you can wake up in the morning. You could do all the best planning. Like this weekend, there was like a beach day with everybody on Sunday, and I was so excited. And I did all the things for days to prepare myself, and I wake up with like nausea and a migraine. And I'm like, so mad. But also, I know that like the community that I have here is so like robust and invested in one another that I'm not gonna hurt anybody's feelings for like canceling, and
Mm,
like they get it, and that also it's not gonna also damage my friendships with these
wow.
people, and we can make plans again, and because there's always something going on, there's always
Yeah.
people who want to connect, so it's really lovely to feel like my chronic illness is not going to further isolate me in a way that
Yeah.
it did in the States.
Yeah. So tell me, thinking back now to kind of who you were before this move, what is one thing that you wish someone had told you?
Don't wait and don't overthink it. If this is something that you want to do, like just jump in. I think do your due diligence, but then at some point, jump. Like you do
Jump.
not have to circle the drain.
Yeah, that's great advice. Great advice. Anything you would want to say to someone else like you, maybe late diagnosed, single parent, someone who's thinking of doing this alone?
Doing this on your own is perfectly okay. And it's actually easier when you don't have somebody else
You get to make all the
who
decisions and
you get
choices.
to make all the decisions.
And
It's kind of
yeah.
great.
Between the visa and all the paperwork and the stuff your kids need, the health conditions, the mental health, the school, the
Yeah.
bureaucracy, there's a lot of moving parts. What exactly all of this
Mhm.
is going to translate to mean, especially if some of the processes that are supposedly in place don't actually work.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing and being so open and transparent and talking. I mean, that story about walking your dogs hit me so hard, and just the hand holding. It's just not something I ever would have seen in the US.
It still sticks to my heart. I wish I remembered their faces so I could thank them if I ever see them again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was profound.
You'll always have that memory though of like that
Yeah.
moment you felt yourself starting to unwind in Spain. It's that
Yeah.
origin story is there.
Yes.
Uh,
100%.
yeah, yeah. Well, if this episode meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. If you're a neurodivergent person or family living abroad or even thinking about it, we'd love to hear your story. You can find us on Instagram at Inclusive Expat. Thanks for being here. We'll talk soon.